What if everything you've been taught about Genesis is a lie? For centuries, we've believed that the Genesis we hold today is the definitive story of our beginnings. But what if I told you there's a much older version, one that speaks of lost civilizations, forgotten worlds, and cosmic events before Adam ever walked the earth? Why have these pieces of history been hidden for so long? Could it be that the first chapters of Genesis once told a much deeper story, one about ancient civilizations that predate humanity as we know it? Were entire worlds, created and destroyed before the dawn of Adam, erased from our history? In this video, we will uncover the shocking truth behind Genesis and its lost secrets. Together, we'll explore the possibility that pre-Adamic civilizations existed, as hinted at by the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Book of Enoch, and ancient biblical texts that were purposely left out of our sacred scriptures. You'll discover how ancient manuscripts, fragments of texts older than our current Bible, suggest that what we think we know about creation may be just the beginning. You'll understand why Genesis might not be a complete account of the beginning of humanity, but rather a condensed version of a much grander, more complex creation narrative. This isn't just history. This is the truth that could change everything you've ever believed about the origins of the world and the universe. So what's really behind the mysterious gaps in the Bible? What truths lie hidden beneath the lines we've been taught to read? Join me as we dive into this forgotten past, revealing the cosmic mysteries that may have been lost forever. If you're ready to discover the truths that have been concealed for centuries, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's explore this journey together. The differences between ancient Genesis manuscripts and the modern versions, the gap theory, and pre-Adamic civilizations. In the heart of every sacred text lies a story that has traveled through centuries, kept alive by the faithful and revered by millions. But what if the version of Genesis we hold today is not the whole truth? What if there are gaps in the story that have been carefully concealed, waiting to be rediscovered? These questions have troubled scholars, theologians, and archaeologists alike, suggesting a deeper, more complex truth than we've ever imagined. The Genesis we know today may be the result of centuries of editing, abridged, condensed, and simplified to fit the theological needs of the time. Ancient manuscripts, discovered in places like the Dead Sea Scrolls, reveal versions of Genesis that date back over 1,000 years before the text we now read. These ancient fragments present a radically different picture of creation. In these early manuscripts, the construction of Genesis is not as we know it, suggesting that much of the original text has been lost or intentionally omitted. When we turn our attention to these early scrolls, we begin to notice subtle yet profound differences. In one version, God doesn't simply create from nothing. Instead, it seems as though he is rebuilding a world that was already there. The earth, described as formless and void, could very well refer to a planet that had undergone destruction, perhaps even a previous civilization. The language used in the ancient Hebrew texts of the Dead Sea Scrolls suggests this possibility, hinting at a cataclysmic event that reshaped the earth, much like a divine restoration. This revelation raises a crucial question. Was this world built upon the ruins of a civilization that existed long before Adam? One of the most compelling theories to emerge from these ancient texts is the gap theory. This theory proposes a vast, undefined period of time between Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis 1:2, time that could account for the existence of a previous creation, one that was destroyed before the world we know was formed. The traditional Genesis narrative begins with, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." But what happens between that verse and the description of the earth being formless and void? The gap theory suggests that this could be the space where an entire history of civilizations, long forgotten, once existed. This gap is more than just an empty space in the text. It represents an opportunity for rediscovery. Scholars who support the gap theory point to the language used in the Genesis creation account and the geological evidence we have today. From the fossil record to the ancient ruins we've uncovered, evidence points to the possibility that an advanced civilization may have once thrived on Earth, long before humanity's time. Archaeological sites in places like Mesopotamia, Egypt, and even the Americas provide clues to these forgotten eras. Could the destruction of these civilizations, as described in apocryphal texts like the Book of Enoch, be the key to understanding this gap in Genesis? The Book of Enoch is a powerful text that some scholars believe offers a glimpse into the world before Adam. It describes celestial beings known as the sons of God, descending to earth and interacting with humans, an act that could have led to the fall of this earlier world. The fall of these celestial beings, also known as the Watchers, may have resulted in a great cataclysm, destroying the civilization that existed before Adam's creation. If this account is true, it would suggest that the Genesis narrative, as we know it, begins not with creation, but with a divine restoration, God rebuilding a world ravaged by cosmic rebellion. This idea isn't just confined to ancient texts. Jewish oral traditions, passed down through the centuries, also speak of earlier creations. The Talmud, Midrash, and later Kabbalistic teachings refer to the possibility that God created and destroyed worlds before the current one. These ancient rabbis believed in multiple cycles of creation and destruction, with each new world arising from the ashes of the old. Could these traditions hold a grain of truth? Could they be a reflection of the lost histories that Genesis omits? One of the most intriguing aspects of this theory is the idea that Genesis, as we have it today, is a condensed version of a much larger story, one that was carefully edited and streamlined for theological reasons. Early Christian and Jewish leaders may have chosen to focus on humanity's story after Adam, intentionally omitting references to earlier worlds and civilizations that could have challenged the dominant narrative of the time. This might explain why there are so many unexplained gaps in the text, and why Genesis seems so abridged compared to the creation myths of other ancient cultures. When we examine the text of Genesis in this light, we begin to see how the biblical canon was shaped over time. In the early centuries of Christianity, when the Bible was being compiled and standardized, various texts were excluded or deemed apocryphal. The Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, and other writings that contained accounts of earlier civilizations were left out, perhaps because they contained information that was too controversial or that contradicted the current narrative. Could these lost books provide the missing pieces to the Genesis puzzle? Even more compelling is the evidence that the Hebrew language itself may hold the key to understanding these gaps. The term tohu vavohu, which is translated as formless and void in Genesis 1:2, has a much richer meaning in its original context. The term tohu can refer to a wasteland or a destroyed world, suggesting that the earth was once inhabited but had been ruined. The vavohu could indicate a state of desolation, where the land was empty, barren, and awaiting restoration. This interpretation radically changes our understanding of the creation account, making it less about the origins of the earth and more about the rebuilding of a world lost to time. The implications of this are profound. If Genesis begins with a restored world, then the first creation, the one that existed before Adam, was an era of divine judgment. Perhaps, like the flood of Noah's time, the earlier world faced judgment for its rebellion or corruption, leaving only remnants behind. If we accept this theory, we must confront the idea that humanity's story, our story, may be just one chapter in a much larger cosmic history. The gap theory doesn't just challenge the traditional narrative of Genesis, it calls into question the very nature of time and creation itself. Could it be that our understanding of the origins of the universe is far more complex than we've ever imagined? Could the Earth have been part of a divine plan that spans multiple epochs, each one destroyed and rebuilt by God's hand? The theory of a pre-Adamic civilization is not just a theological idea, it's a radical shift in how we view the creation of the world. And yet, we must also ask, why were these civilizations erased from history? Was it simply a matter of divine judgment, or was there something more? Perhaps there is a lesson for us, a warning that we must heed as we consider our own place in this world and the choices we make. The story of Genesis and the gap between its lines invites us to look beyond the surface, to seek the deeper truths that may have been hidden from us for centuries. As we explore this ancient narrative, we are left with more questions than answers. But perhaps that is the point. Genesis, with all its gaps and mysteries, is not just a story of creation. It is a call to look beyond what is written, to seek out the hidden truths that lie beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered. In doing so, we may just uncover the missing chapters of our own history, chapters that speak of forgotten worlds, divine judgment, and the restoration of a creation that was lost long ago. And so, as we continue on this journey, let us remain open to the possibility that the history of our world is far more profound than we have ever imagined. Let us seek the truth hidden in the gaps, and in doing so, find the lessons that will guide us toward a deeper understanding of our place in the grand story of creation. What do you think? Could these ancient texts reveal a forgotten past? Let me know in the comments below. The gap theory and pre-Adamic civilizations. The idea of pre-Adamic civilization stirs the imagination, hinting at a world lost to time and veiled in mystery. This possibility isn't just an abstract theory, it's one that is deeply rooted in ancient texts and traditions that suggest much more to our creation story than what is written in Genesis. If we are willing to look beyond the traditional interpretations of Genesis, we might uncover a far more intricate and divine narrative of our beginnings. The gap theory, proposed by theologians in the 19th century, asserts that there exists a vast gap of time between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2. These verses tell us, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty." The traditional interpretation reads this as a simple statement of creation, as if the earth had no form and was void of life. But when we examine the ancient texts, specifically the Hebrew used in the Dead Sea Scrolls and other ancient manuscripts, a new understanding begins to emerge. The gap theory suggests that between those two verses, there could have been a vast, undefined period of time, a time of destruction and judgment. This theory posits that the earth was once inhabited by a civilization that existed before Adam and was destroyed by some cataclysmic event, likely due to a cosmic rebellion or divine judgment. The ancient Hebrew term tohu vavohu, traditionally translated as formless and void, can be better understood as a wasteland or a destroyed world. If we apply this meaning, we might see the earth as a ruined world awaiting restoration rather than a new creation. But what could have caused this destruction? Could it have been the result of a rebellion? Ancient texts, including the Book of Enoch and various Jewish oral traditions, speak of a celestial revolt, a rebellion led by the Watchers, angels who descended to earth and interacted with humans, bringing corruption and sin. This rebellion, as described in these ancient texts, could have led to the downfall of an earlier world, a world that was subsequently destroyed in preparation for the creation of the world as we know it. In the Book of Enoch, we read about these watchers, beings who once resided in the heavenly realms but defied God's will by descending to earth, taking human wives and corrupting humanity. This event, described as one of the first acts of rebellion in cosmic history, resulted in a catastrophic punishment. The divine destruction that followed could very well be the judgment that led to the formless and void state of the earth described in Genesis. If the earth had indeed been populated with a civilization before Adam, this divine judgment would explain the desolate state of the world in the Genesis account. For many, the concept of a pre-Adamic civilization may seem foreign, even unsettling. But when we begin to examine the clues scattered throughout ancient scriptures, we start to see a consistent theme, a narrative about the rise and fall of civilizations before the creation of Adam. Jewish mysticism, particularly in the Kabbalah, speaks of these broken worlds. In the Kabbalistic tradition, there is the idea of Chevathalim, worlds that were created by God, only to be destroyed and recreated as part of a divine cycle. These cycles could very well correspond to the civilizations that once thrived on Earth before the time of Adam. The idea of civilizations rising and falling in the divine order of creation can be unsettling, but it also offers a profound lesson. It suggests that the Earth is not a static entity. It is part of a grand and ongoing cosmic process. This process, dictated by divine will, is one of constant renewal and restoration, where even the destruction of a world can be a necessary step for the emergence of a new creation. Perhaps the Earth we know today is just one chapter in a much larger story, one that has been shaped by divine hands over epochs of time. We must also consider the implications of this theory for our understanding of humanity's role in creation. If there were indeed civilizations before Adam, what were they like? What could they teach us, and why were they destroyed? The Genesis account, when viewed through the lens of the gap theory, is not merely the beginning of humanity. It is the beginning of humanity's redemption. Perhaps just as the earth was restored after its previous destruction, we too are part of a greater process of spiritual restoration and transformation. Yet this theory also raises troubling questions. If there were civilizations before Adam, what happened to them? Why are they not mentioned in the Bible? The fact that there are no direct references to these lost civilizations in the canonical Bible could suggest that early religious leaders deliberately omitted them. Were these civilizations simply erased from history to maintain a certain theological narrative? Or was the story of their rise and fall deemed too controversial or too distant to be included in the sacred texts? These questions are not easy to answer, but they lead us to explore deeper mysteries within the Genesis account and ancient traditions. As we look back at the gaps in Genesis, we are not merely questioning the past. We are searching for answers that might help us better understand our place in the grand story of creation. The existence of a pre-Adamic civilization offers us an opportunity to reimagine our own origins and to see ourselves not as isolated beings, but as part of an ongoing divine narrative that spans far beyond the boundaries of time as we know it. As we move forward, let us remember that the truths we seek are not always readily visible. Sometimes, the most profound revelations lie hidden in the gaps of ancient texts, waiting for us to uncover them. Perhaps the true story of creation is far more expansive and mysterious than we have ever imagined, and perhaps as we learn more about these lost worlds and civilizations, we can gain a deeper understanding of our own existence and the divine plan that has shaped all of creation. In the next chapter of our exploration, we will delve deeper into the mysteries of the Book of Enoch, where the celestial beings and their interaction with Earth may offer more clues to the forgotten civilizations that once thrived. Join me as we continue this journey to uncover the hidden truths of our past and to discover the lessons they hold for our future. The emergence of non-canonical texts, the Book of Enoch, and Jubilees. As we delve deeper into the ancient scriptures and manuscripts that lie beyond the familiar bounds of the Bible, we uncover hidden treasures, texts that have long been dismissed or overlooked by the canon, but which speak volumes about the mysteries of creation. Among these texts, the Book of Enoch and Jubilees stand out, offering us glimpses into a world far more complex than we ever imagined. They hold keys to understanding pre-Adamic civilizations, the role of celestial beings, and the divine order of the universe in ways that the canonical texts alone cannot fully explain. The Book of Enoch, a text long considered apocryphal, paints a vivid picture of an ancient world ruled by powerful celestial beings. The story it tells is both awe-inspiring and deeply unsettling. It speaks of angels, referred to as the Watchers, who descend to earth mingling with humans and teaching them forbidden knowledge. This knowledge, as the text suggests, brought about the fall of an earlier divine order and led to the corruption of humanity. These beings, once revered in the heavens, fell from grace, and their actions were said to have led to the destruction of the world that existed before Adam. What is striking about the Book of Enoch is its description of the sons of God, heavenly beings who interacted with earth and its inhabitants, a story that is only hinted at in the canonical Genesis account. In Enoch, we see these beings as active participants in the creation and shaping of life on earth, offering their wisdom and knowledge to humanity in ways that the traditional Bible barely touches upon. It is a reminder that our understanding of creation is incomplete, and that there may have been forces at work that have been hidden from us for centuries. The Book of Jubilees, another ancient text, further expands on these themes. Known as the Lesser Genesis, it offers a retelling of the creation story, but with a focus on the chronological aspects of God's plan. Jubilees provides us with detailed accounts of the creation process, outlining specific timelines for each act of creation, and it even introduces the idea of angels actively shaping the world. It suggests that the creation of humanity was not just an isolated event, but part of a divine plan that included celestial intervention at every step. Both Enoch and Jubilees challenge the idea that Genesis, as we know it, tells the complete story of creation. They suggest that the creation of humanity, as we understand it, may have been part of a much larger and more complex cosmic order. These texts raise important questions about the true nature of creation, questions that have been hidden in the gaps of the canonical Bible, and now beckon us to reconsider the divine purpose behind our existence. What can we learn from these ancient texts? First and foremost, they remind us that our understanding of the origins of the world is far from complete. These writings suggest that the creation of humanity and the world itself may have been shaped by forces beyond our comprehension. The actions of the Watchers and the celestial beings described in the Book of Enoch challenge the traditional narrative and offer us a new perspective on our place in the grand design of the universe. Could it be that the original Genesis account, as we have it today, was purposely edited to exclude these accounts, leaving behind only a simplified version of events? These texts hint at a more complicated and profound truth, one that is still waiting to be discovered. These discoveries do not undermine the power or the authority of the canonical Bible, but rather invite us to look deeper, to ask more questions, and to seek the full story. They remind us that our understanding of creation is constantly evolving, and that the answers we seek may be hidden in the ancient texts, waiting to be uncovered. The changes in language and interpretation of Genesis. The words we read in Genesis today are not the same words that were originally written. Over centuries of translations, edits, and revisions, the meaning of many passages has been altered, often unknowingly, and in some cases, deliberately. The Hebrew used in the earliest manuscripts, particularly those found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, carries subtle meanings that are often lost in modern translations. These linguistic differences are not just academic, they shape the way we understand the very nature of creation and the divine plan. Consider, for example, the word tohu vavohu, translated as formless and void, in Genesis chapter 1-2. This phrase has been interpreted to mean that the earth was completely empty, without form, as though it was nothing. But in its original context, tohu refers to a desolate wasteland, a state of destruction, while vavohu conveys emptiness, not in the sense of being void of existence, but void of order. This subtle difference in meaning opens up a new possibility, that the earth, as described in Genesis, was not created from nothing, but rather it was restored from a state of ruin. The interpretation suggests that the world was not merely created, but recreated, following a divine judgment or cosmic catastrophe. The earth, in this sense, could be seen as having been rebuilt by God, a world remade from the ruins of an earlier civilization. This shift in understanding the text has profound implications. If we accept that the earth was already there, in a ruined state, then we must consider the possibility that earlier civilizations existed, civilizations that were lost to time, possibly due to divine intervention. The gap theory, which posits a vast, undefined period between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, fits neatly into this revised understanding of the text. It suggests that there was once a creation before Adam, a creation that was destroyed and then restored. Moreover, the original Hebrew contains many other nuances that do not come through in translations. Words that are understood today as earth or land might have originally carried meanings such as ruined land or desolate place. These subtle linguistic shifts suggest that the earth was not created out of nothing, but rather it was renewed after having been devastated. This interpretation of Genesis challenges the traditional view of a clean slate creation and invites us to reframe the story of humanity's origins. The way language shapes our understanding of Genesis also highlights the importance of translation and the choices made by translators throughout history. The Bible, as we know it today, is the product of countless translations, from the Hebrew to the Greek, the Latin, and finally into English and other modern languages. Each step in this process has introduced changes, some small and some significant. As a result, much of the richness of the original text has been lost or altered. But by returning to the earliest manuscripts, we can begin to recover the deeper meanings behind the words, revealing a more nuanced and complex narrative of creation. This realization should inspire us to approach the Bible not just as a book of rules and stories, but as a living document that speaks to us through the ages. The words of Genesis were never meant to be static. They were meant to evolve, to be interpreted in new ways as our understanding of the universe grows. And in doing so, the deeper mysteries of creation will be revealed to those who seek them. By re-examining Genesis through the lens of ancient Hebrew and the manuscripts that came before the modern Bible, we are invited to see the world in a new light. We are called to look beyond the surface of the text, to seek out the hidden meanings, and to understand the divine order in all its complexity. This journey of discovery is not just an academic pursuit, it is a spiritual one. It is an invitation to grow, to question, and to explore the mysteries of the universe that lie just beyond our reach. The language of Genesis, like the world it describes, is not static. It is dynamic, alive with the possibilities of what was, what is, and what is yet to come. Let us embrace this journey of discovery, knowing that as we seek the deeper meanings hidden within the text, we are uncovering the divine wisdom that has been with us from the very beginning. Insights from Kabbalah and ancient beliefs. As we continue our journey into the deeper realms of creation, we find ourselves drawn to the mystical teachings of Kabbalah and other ancient belief systems. These age-old traditions speak not only to the nature of the universe, but also to the mysteries that lie beyond the veil of ordinary understanding. They offer us a lens through which we can examine the divine order of creation, revealing insights that are often left untouched by conventional readings of Scripture. Kabbalah, a form of Jewish mysticism, has long intrigued those seeking a deeper connection with the divine. It teaches that the universe is not just a physical reality, but a complex web of spiritual forces, energies, and divine emanations. At the heart of Kabbalistic thought is the concept of Ein Sof, the infinite and boundless source from which all creation flows. From this source, the divine light is drawn down through 10 stages, known as the Sephirot, each representing a different aspect of God's interaction with the world. These Sephirot form a map of the spiritual realms, guiding the soul toward enlightenment and union with the divine. In Kabbalah, the story of creation is not a linear progression, but rather a series of divine emanations that reflect the unfolding of God's will. This understanding challenges the conventional reading of Genesis as a simple account of creation. Instead, it suggests that creation is an ongoing process, one that is continually unfolding through the interplay of divine forces. In this view, the world is not a static entity. It is a dynamic reflection of the divine light, constantly shifting and evolving according to the will of God. One of the most fascinating aspects of Kabbalah is its understanding of the Tzimtzum, the concept of divine contraction. According to this teaching, before creation could take place, God had to contract his infinite light to create space for the world to exist. This contraction did not represent a withdrawal of God's presence, but rather a necessary step in the unfolding of creation. Without the Tzimtzum, there would have been no room for the finite world to take shape. This idea mirrors the gap between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, the space between the original creation and the restoration of the earth after its destruction. Could it be that the Tzimtzum offers a deeper understanding of the world's restoration, a divine contraction that created the conditions for a new world to emerge from the ruins of the old? The Kabbalistic teachings of the Sephirot and Tzimtzum resonate deeply with the themes we have explored in the gap theory. Just as the divine light was contracted to make way for creation, so too could the world have undergone a process of divine restoration. The idea that the earth was once destroyed, only to be recreated in a new form, aligns with the mystical understanding of divine light and contraction. In this light, Genesis is not merely the account of the world's beginning, but a description of the ongoing process of spiritual unfolding, a process that began long before Adam and continues to shape the world even today. But the insights from Kabbalah do not end there. The tradition also speaks of the concept of Shevirat HaKelim, the breaking of the vessels. According to this teaching, when God first created the world, he attempted to pour his divine light into vessels that were meant to contain it. However, these vessels were not strong enough to hold the overwhelming light, and they shattered, scattering fragments of divine energy throughout the world. This idea of broken vessels is deeply symbolic and speaks to the fragility of creation. It suggests that the world, as we know it, is incomplete, a shattered reflection of the divine light that was meant to illuminate it fully. This concept of brokenness and restoration is central to the gap theory as well. If the earth was indeed once inhabited by a civilization that was destroyed, could the remnants of that world be seen as fragments of divine light, scattered across time and space? The idea of the broken vessels and their eventual restoration mirrors the narrative of Genesis, where the earth was initially created in a state of perfection, only to be ruined and then rebuilt by God. In this sense, Genesis may not just be a story of creation, it is a story of divine redemption, a process of repairing what was once broken and restoring it to its original divine purpose. Beyond Kabbalah, other ancient belief systems offer similar insights into the nature of creation and destruction. The ancient Egyptians, for example, believed in a cyclical view of the universe where creation, destruction, and rebirth were constant and eternal. In their cosmology, the sun god Ra would journey through the underworld each night, only to be reborn each morning. This cyclical understanding of time and creation reflects the same themes we see in Genesis and Kabbalah. The idea that creation is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process of divine renewal. The ancient Babylonians shared a similar understanding of creation through their epic Enuma Elish, which tells the story of the world's creation from the chaos of a primal sea. In this myth, the god Marduk defeats the chaos goddess Tiamat, cutting her body in two to form the heavens and the earth. This story of divine conflict and cosmic order echoes the themes we find in Genesis, where the world emerges from chaos and destruction. The Enuma Elish also emphasizes the role of divine intervention in shaping the world, much like the intervention of God in the gap theory, where the earth was restored from its ruined state. These ancient teachings, whether from Kabbalah, Egypt, Babylon, or other cultures, suggest that the process of creation is far more intricate and layered than we have been taught. They remind us that the world is not a static, fixed entity, but a dynamic reflection of divine will, constantly unfolding and renewing itself. They invite us to see beyond the surface of the Genesis account and to recognize the deeper truths that lie hidden beneath the text. The insights from these ancient traditions also offer us a powerful lesson. They remind us that creation, whether on a cosmic scale or in our own lives, is not a one-time event. It is a continuous process of divine unfolding, one that requires us to be active participants in the restoration of the world. Just as the divine light was contracted to create space for the world, so too must we be willing to create space in our own lives for the divine to enter. Just as the vessels were broken and shattered, so too are we often broken by the challenges of life. But in the breaking, there is also the potential for healing and restoration, a chance to be remade in the divine image. As we reflect on these ancient teachings and their relevance to our understanding of Genesis, we are reminded that the story of creation is not just about the past, it is about the present and the future. It is an invitation to participate in the ongoing process of creation, to heal the brokenness in our own lives, and to help restore the world to its original divine purpose. By embracing the insights of Kabbalah and other ancient traditions, we can begin to see the world in a new light, one that is filled with possibility, renewal, and divine grace. In the next part of our exploration, we will look at how these ancient truths can inspire us to live more fully and to embrace the divine plan that is unfolding in our lives. Let us continue on this journey of discovery, seeking the hidden wisdom that lies beneath the surface of the text and finding the lessons that can guide us toward a deeper connection with the divine. As we reach the end of our journey today, I invite you to take a moment to reflect on everything we've explored together. We've journeyed through ancient texts, uncovered hidden histories, and allowed ourselves to imagine a deeper, more profound truth about creation, humanity, and our divine origins. These insights are not just for the curious mind, but for the heart and soul that yearns for understanding beyond the surface, seeking the light that has been concealed for so long. Throughout this exploration, we've learned that the story of Genesis is far more intricate than we ever imagined. The ancient manuscripts, the apocryphal texts, the hidden wisdom from Kabbalah and other mystical traditions, each piece of the puzzle adds a new layer of meaning, a new layer of understanding. We've come to realize that the divine narrative of creation isn't just a static, finished story. It's a living, breathing journey, one that continues to unfold with each discovery, with each step we take toward the truth. In the midst of this vast, cosmic mystery, there's a profound lesson we can carry with us. The truth is not always immediately visible. It often requires us to dig deeper, to look beyond the conventional, and to open our hearts to the possibility of something greater. The earth, the universe, and even humanity are not isolated creations. We are part of a much grander divine plan, one that has been unfolding long before our time and will continue to unfold long after we are gone. Our role in this journey is not to simply observe, but to participate, to help restore what has been broken, to heal what has been lost, and to bring the light of understanding to those who are still in darkness. This path of discovery is not always easy. The search for truth often leads us through questions, doubts, and challenges. But just as the divine light was contracted to make space for creation, so too must we create space in our own lives to receive that light. We must be willing to confront the brokenness within ourselves, to heal the wounds of the past, and to allow the divine to restore us to our true purpose. As we embrace these truths and walk this path of restoration, we are reminded that we are not alone. Each step we take is part of a much larger story, one that is intertwined with the stories of those who have come before us and those who will come after us. We are all connected, bound together by the divine light that flows through us and sustains us. And just as the earth was once restored, so too can we be restored, healed, and transformed. If this video has touched your heart, if it has helped you find a glimmer of light in the midst of your struggles, I humbly ask that you consider supporting this channel in any way you can. Your support, no matter how small, means the world to me. It is the energy that keeps me going, the encouragement that fuels the creation of these videos. If you feel this message resonates with your soul, if you believe that the truths we've uncovered today can help others, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe. Together, we can continue to share these insights, spread the light, and guide others on their own journey of discovery and healing. Your comments, your thoughts, your reflections, they all matter. Every word shared in the comments is a step toward greater understanding, a piece of the puzzle that we're all trying to solve together. So, if you feel moved, if you have questions or insights of your own, please leave them below. Let's continue this conversation, continue seeking, continue growing together. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you for being part of this journey. Thank you for your energy, your time, and your willingness to seek the truth. May the divine light continue to guide you, and may you always find peace, healing, and understanding on your path. Remember, the story of creation is far from over, and we are all part of it. Let's walk this path together with faith, love, and a deep sense of purpose. Thank you.